Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order of Trent Lakes Council and our new council. Welcome aboard, everyone. Now, I would like to ask our clerk, Jesse Clark, to call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Lansett, are you present?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong? Present. Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
Councillor Madigan?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CIO Treasurer.
Present.
Steve Broadbank, Director of Emergency Services.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works. Is on the line. Barb Waldron, Director of Building and Planning, CDO.
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner.
Present.
Anne Ruth, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Sarah Dillamarter, Junior Planner.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Legislative Coordinator, Executive Assistant, CAO.
Present.
And Jesse Clark, Director of Public Services, Participant.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to move on to our next item on the agenda, which is the land acknowledgement moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes and Peterborough County are located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Councilor Franzen?
I think council should recognize the individuals between our council meetings.
Yes.
What we consider this is community and
Okay.
All right, if I may, it seems like we're having some sound issues, so I'm going to leave the room and we're going to go into a brief recess to resolve this.
Okay.
And we're going to have Councillor Franzen test, so can you let me know if you can hear him all right?
Caps, can you hear me now?
I can hear him clearer than before, Jesse, but even when you spoke, we have a little bit of static coming through when people in the room are speaking.
Is static constant or only when someone's speaking?
Only when someone is speaking.
Still having issues, Anne? Is there still static?
Yes, I believe there is. We can hear you. There's just like a little overlay, so it's not clear.
Should we continue, or do you think we should remain recessed and try and get some technological help?
I believe we can proceed. If everyone could just make sure they're facing the microphone and speaking clearly into the microphone to the best of their ability.
That's a common theme for me.
Okay. As long as you think the quality is still good enough to proceed, we'll pick up at the disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we're back on here now. And yes, Councillor Franzen did mention the passing of Irma Windover. She's been a lifelong part of this community and should be sadly missed. Thank you for bringing that to our attention to you. Now we'll move on to item number 2 of our agenda, which is the disclosure of pecuniary interest. If anyone member of council has a disclosure to disclose, then please do it now or anytime on the agenda prior to speaking about the item that you have a disclosure in. I'm seeing no hands. We can move on to the approval of agenda. I'm sure we've all perused the agenda. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Councillor Franzen and Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Any conversation? All in favor? The motion is carried to approve the agenda is circulated. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 4, which is the adoption of the minutes. We have the regular council meeting of November 8th, the statutory public meeting of November 8th, and we have the public meeting of November 8th. If anyone would like to speak about any one of those individually, we can take them out or we can approve them all with one motion. I see Councillor Franzen.
Motion to approve in one motion.
Okay, and I have a seconder. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong. All in favor? Motion is carried to approve the minutes. Okay, and we have committees and boards. We have the Economic Development Advisory Committee and minutes from November the 14th. We've had a chance to peruse them. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Go ahead.
And just with a question, if I may, Mayor, as the recording secretary, Anne, could you share with us what will happen to the 2 recommendations that were included in the DDAC minutes?
Thank you. Through the mayor, the 2 recommendations that came out of the Economic Development Advisory Committee November meeting were forwarded to the Economic Development and Marketing Coordinator, who will be bringing forward the recommendations via staff reports. Thank you.
Okay. A motion. Looking for a seconder. I see Councillor Braybrooke for a seconder. All in favor? The motion has carried. Okay, we have section 5.2 of our agenda, which is liaison boards and council boards and committees, if anybody is interested. Do we have a report on any of those? I'm seeing none. Okay, we can move on to, we need a motion to recess our regular meeting and go into an open public meeting. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? The motion is approved. We are now in open session. We are talking about zoning bylaw amendment file number 2226. Staff have a report of comments.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw, B 2014-070. A notice of public meeting for today's application containing the prescribed information was circulated to all landowners within 120-meter radius of the subject lands at least 20 days prior to this meeting. The notice was also mailed to all prescribed agencies, public bodies, and persons in accordance with regulations. Anyone wanting to be notified of any decision from today's public meeting must send in a written request, either myself or the clerk, and the notice of passing will be mailed to them, setting out the method and manner in which appeals may be made to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please note that if a person does not send a written comment prior to the passing of the bylaw or make an oral submission at a public meeting, that person may not be entitled to appeal the decision.
Okay, thank you very much.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, presented in front of us today is this is a public meeting for file number 22-26 to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by agent Gary Newhook on behalf of the owners Bryce Vincent DeZekiel and Candice Naomi DeZekiel. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name appropriately, so I apologize if that's not how you pronounce it. So this is the Shoreline Residential Private Access Lot, known municipally as 33 Fire Route 96D. The subject land has a lot area of approximately 0.56 acres with a shoreline frontage of approximately 42.67 meters. The lot is currently occupied by a single-story dwelling with a floor area of approximately 96 square meters, an attached deck with a floor area of approximately 18.6 square meters, and 2 small storage sheds with floor areas of approximately 16 square meters and 9.5 square meters. The applicant is proposing to construct a single-story replacement dwelling with a walkout basement with an attached deck and garage. The footprint of the dwelling is proposed to be approximately 233 square meters. The open-air deck is proposed to be approximately 83 square meters. The covered deck is proposed to be approximately 28 square meters, and the attached garage is proposed to be 29.7 square meters. Chris's report notes that the applicant's original site plan and floor plan exhibited discrepancies in the floor area of the deck as well as the lot coverage. The applicant provided a revised site plan as a result on November 8th, 2022. The applicant will require relief from the 30-meter water yard setback to accommodate the proposed 19.6-meter setback from the high water mark. This would be improving the existing 16.8-meter setback from the existing dwelling to the high water mark. The proposed deck would also require recognition as it is proposed to be set back 16.9 meters, which would be improving the existing 15.6 meter setback from the existing deck to the high water mark. The applicant would also require relief from the minimum private right-of-way setback from 12 meters to 3.6 meters from the proposed dwelling where the existing setback from the dwelling to the private right-of-way is 7.6 meters. This would also recognize the setback from the proposed deck to the private right-of-way, which would be 4.6 meters. Additionally, the proposed septic system would be located in the required water yard with a setback of approximately 25 meters. The definition of deck in the comprehensive zoning bylaw would have to be amended to include the covered deck, as our current definition does not permit any covering on the deck. There is a planning report on today's agenda from the municipality's external planning consultant, Chris Jones. Chris's report notes that the lot is characterized by rock outcrops and that a portion of the lot adjacent to the southeast shoreline appears to be characterized by standing water. It is also worth noting that the applicant intends to relocate the driveway from the west side to the north side. It appears the relocation of the driveway may cross a piece of land held under a separate land ownership between the traveled private road and the applicant's lot. Chris's report notes that the proposal is considered infill development as defined in the growth plan for the Great and Boulder Horseshoe, and is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement. Chris's report also notes that section 5.1.23.4 subsection C of the official plan establishes the preferred method of sewage disposal to be a class 4 septic system. As the redevelopment would substantially increase the floor area and utilize a holding tank for the sewage disposal, Chris concludes that the proposed zoning amendment would not maintain and/or enhance the environmental integrity of the waterfront. The municipality is in receipt of several comments pertaining to the proposal. Comments received from Curve Lake First Nations recommends an archaeological assessment where soils are to be disturbed. Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board have indicated that they have no identifiable concerns related to the proposal. From the public, we have a written letter from Cam Lang, whose comments are attached to today's agenda in opposition of the proposed development. There was also a comment received after the Friday agenda deadline from Megan Janes, whose letter I'll read out loud now. So it begins, to whom it may concern. I'm providing written submission in respect to file number 22-26, zoning bylaw amendment, public meeting on Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. I'm a property owner at 58 Fire Road 60. I welcome our new neighbors at 33 Fire Road 960 to the area. My family is the second owner of our lot, but my grandparents were the original owners of another lot down the road. The original cottage housing stock has been largely in keeping with the natural setting. Upgrades often maintain the key natural heritage features. I have spent much of my time in my youth at the 33 Fire Road 960 cottage and know well the constraints of the current building layout and surrounding. When my kids were younger, the previous owners would let them rappel on a rope down the cliff east of the existing cottage. I look forward to the revitalization of the applicant's property so they may enjoy the property as much as their predecessors. I have reviewed the site plan and zoning bylaw amendment, and I hope that my comments below are helpful to find a suitable site plan that is fitting with the site constraints, protects the adjoining natural areas, enhances community safety, and maximizes the owner's enjoyment of the setting. Reduction from the minimum 12-meter westerly setback from the private right-of-way to 3.6 meters. I am concerned that the building massing is in close proximity to the right-of-way. The building layout shows decking alongside the right-of-way. This is right near a curve in the road and a slope. Sight lines, along the right-of-way may be impaired with this reduction in setback and reduced safety for pedestrians and cyclists to oncoming vehicular traffic. The right-of-way is a regular walking route, and decrease in setback could result in an intrusion on privacy, views, spacing, and openness along the right-of-way and the proposed building. Would it be possible to shift the building layout east and south to provide a more appropriate setback from the right-of-way? Built form. It would be helpful to consider the proposed built form and its compatibility with the neighborhood and established built form. Many of the cottages in our community have maintained the site context consistent with the natural setting and surroundings. The proposed layout is also almost entirely outside of the original building footprint. Occupied basements in the vicinity are unusual, and it is not clear if the basement is intended to be occupied and if the basement is included in footprint calculations. The heritage value of the historical stone fireplace built by a local stonemason and potential retention could be considered. It is not clear if during construction that bedrock removal is required. If so, could there be a noise assessment or assurance that the work will be done off-season? Natural environmental features. An environmental impact study was not completed for the application. The land east of the current building has characteristics of a wetland and should be evaluated further. An arborist report was not included, and it is unclear if the tree removal on the north side requires compensation for the loss of screening, habitat, and greening. It would seem that much of the wood lot on the north side of the property would be removed and create a completely new aesthetic different from the current naturalized edge along the existing right-of-way. Drainage. If regrading the southern portion of the property is contemplated, could an assessment of the impact of the grading on drainage and impact to natural environment, right-of-way, and neighboring properties through a drainage plan be considered? Is a site alteration bylaw permit required? Traffic. The original driveway is at the southwest portion of the site. The proposed driveway is on the north side, in the middle of an S-bend in the right-of-way, and almost directly across from another entrance. The alignment may be potentially problematic from a safety perspective, creating almost an intersection in the middle of an S-bend. Is it possible to evaluate the proposed driveway location, sightlines, and verify the safety? I appreciate the opportunity to provide these comments to Council and respectfully enter this written submission for consideration during the public meeting on Tuesday, November 22nd at 1 p.m. Agent Gary Newhook is available on the line for any questions, as is the property owner. Further, if any members of the public did not register with the clerk indicating their intent to make an oral submission but would like to do so at this time, please use the raise a hand feature so that we are able to promote you in order for you to make an oral submission. Thank you for bearing with me.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any members of council have any questions of the owner or Gary Newhook? Councilor Franzen, yes, go ahead.
My understanding is that this development would require.
How do I turn? Can you hear me?
Is that you, Gary? Is that you, Gary?
Can you hear me?
A bit.
Can you hear me?
There, we hear you now, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. The last time I was on here, I had a heck of a time. Anyways, my name's Gary Newhook. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about this. Unfortunately, Mr. Dyzenko is out of the country and he can't be here. But I'll do my best to answer any questions and walk you through some of the reasoning behind the design of this house and the location on the property. It is a difficult property, as was mentioned by one of the responses that came in. as far as the road, I think Chris Jones mentioned that there's some property at the end that looks like the driveway is going to go across it. There's a large rock formation, and the survey wasn't shown on here, but it does show this about 6 meters, or sorry, 3 meters, a meter high, 6 feet high, probably about 20 feet in diameter, right around where that bend is. And I guess when they put the road in there, they said rather than blast this rock out, they just curved the road around, but they never changed the survey or the property or whatever. So that property in at the back there, I'm assuming it's owned by the town. However, the town has taken over part, so we'll trade you one for the other. Anyways, that's the reason why that road is going around. There is an obstruction there, and I guess back in the 50s when the development was done and the roads, they chose to go that route, because I've done a few that the roads do not meet what the survey says. So that's the reason why that property is there. As far as the attached garage, yes, it is attached garage. It's taken up a good portion of the basement because the property does slope quite a bit to that side. And the driveway now, as somebody had mentioned, comes on the west, and we would like to move it only because it comes across and it goes into the front yard on the lake side. There's nothing down there. We want to be at the back of the building, or we would have to walk up the hill to get into the front of the house. Even now, you have to do that on the existing house. So the property does lean itself pretty well to have the driveway on that side. And as far as having a blind corner, there's a lot of blind corners over there, not just on here, anywhere. You get over onto Lane's Trail and Fire Routes 96 and so on. There's 2 cottages further on past, and then it's the end of the road. So you have one person at the end, which is the lady that Megan Jane, she lives at the very end, and right beside my client, there is probably about a 25 to 3,000 square foot house that's being built down in the valley, if you will. And then you drive up over a hill to get to Megan Jones. And that's it. That's all there is on that part of it. So is there a blind spot? Yes, there is. But I mean, the whole road is that way. To get to Megan's, you've got to drive up over a hill to get there. As far as basements, and again, I'm jumping around a bit here, but people mention about basements aren't common in there. No, I agree, because you're going to be in the lake. The one next door to us, which is by Megan's as well, has 2 garages going into the basement. It's built into the side of the hill, and the property does lend that way and looks quite well. We believe me, we've moved this building all over this property to try and find something that would work, because the topographical elevations, if you will, of the property are not very conducive to putting a building on. However, it is doable, and I think we've optimized the best spot that's on there, and we're open to any suggestions, obviously, but I've always found that the more people you got involved, and the more times you're going to be moving this thing all over the place. If there is a problem with that wraparound deck on the roof side, the client is prepared to move that off of that if that's a problem. And then it brings the house then to 4.6. He was just trying to get a means to get the deck around to the front of the house. All right, so that covers pretty much that side of it. As far as the reasoning why we moved it back, because we felt trying to get involved with the conservation, they're going to want us out of the floodplain. So the building and the deck, the front corner of the deck, it does hit the floodplain. Other than that, the building is back out of the floodplain. What other comments was made? Am I on screen here? I don't see my picture anywhere.
No, we don't see you, but we can hear you.
All right, that's the main thing. As far as was mentioned about an arborist, and I'm not sure if it was mentioned on that. My understanding is in Trent Lakes, a permit is not necessary to remove trees, but the client is the contractor down in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, and he wants to try and keep as many trees as possible. And that was another thing. The positioning of this building, we tried to keep it so that we minimize the amount of trees that were coming down. I can't tell you how many have to come down because the surveyor did not put it on the survey of the trees. Other than that, I think that pretty well covers official plans. So the holding tank, you know, we did go through, of course, before we got involved in there, there's a couple of things you've got to do. You're going to be able to get some water to drink, and you're going to be able to go poop somewhere. So we thought we had to find out about a septic system. And we did proceed through with Clark Environmental, and we do have a approval for a holding tank. There isn't a holding tank now on the property because the property, again, does not lend itself to put in a filter bed. So that location of the septic tank, it does meet the code, if you will, as far as the septic Peterborough Health. I believe, however, Trent Lakes are asking it to be 30 meters, so but 30 meters would put it out in the roadway. So that's the reason why the septic is where it is. As far as studies, I know Chris Jones was asking to have all kinds of studies, phase ones and that. Yeah, we could do it. I was with a client before, we did one to about $30,000, and to I mean, this is sort of a no-brainer in my view. And I'm not an archaeologist person, so I stand corrected on that. But it just seems like an awful waste of money to replace a building on a property that's all rock. All right, so it's all right. I guess that's about covers what I like to say. So, if any questions from the councilors or the deputy mayor, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Franza, do you still have a question?
I think it's pretty well been answered, so there's no other kind of septic system that would work there, is there?
Believe me, we would like to get a filter or anything on there. And Brad Clark, I mean, he used to be work for Peterborough Health, and he's all more. And we do try to get it in. Matter of fact, the health department does not like holding tanks, but
yeah.
In this case, it was one there originally, and that's what we have to do.
And that holding tank wouldn't be in the floodplain?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first.
Would that holding tank be in the floodplain?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Okay.
The floodplain, and again, you pretty well have to have the survey. I did not put it on that curve mark you see there. The floodplain is outside of that red hatched line that you see there.
Okay.
And it goes up across that corner of the deck. So it pretty well follows that land, that curved line you see there.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other comments? I think anyone from the gallery, virtual or otherwise, would like to speak?
I have Cam Lang. I'm going to unmute you now.
Okay. Cam, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I don't want to reiterate my letter. I trust that council has seen that. We are the owners of the right of way that this property has access to. I think there was mention by Mr. Newhook about the town potentially owning property. That the municipality owns no property in this area whatsoever. I think the big concern and what you're hearing is that there isn't a lot of information that has been submitted in support of a new building, a new dwelling that is 2.5 times the size of the original dwelling. Now, this is an undersized lot. It does have a lot of challenges. And that's precisely why there are studies that are required, particularly when the thrust of the official plan and the zoning bylaw is that if you want to rebuild a dwelling, particularly in the shoreline residential zone, that you utilize the existing footprint. And one of the reasons that policy is in there and the regulation is because there's an acknowledgement that the site has been developed and disturbed by an existing footprint, and that further expansion or even relocation of the footprint outside of the existing one doesn't further impact the shoreline natural environment. I have no, I think it was mentioned that I oppose the application. I don't necessarily oppose the application. At this time, yes, I probably do. And it's because there are so many unanswered questions. You know, it seems to me that I don't want to stand in the way of the applicant wanting to rebuild. There is that expectation. However, what it looks like to me is that they've purchased the lot. It's an undersized lot. Didn't like the house that was existing on it. Obviously, they want to rebuild it. And what I'm seeing here is that your official plan and your zoning bylaw are obstacles. They're not working within the policy framework that exists or the zoning regulations that exist. There are significant setbacks that they're seeking relief on. And the one to the roadway is a particular concern. Most of the cottages along here do maintain at least a 12-meter setback. This is challenging right here because it leads into a peninsula. This is where the road comes to an end, where it's double-sided. And there isn't as much privacy in this particular area of the Cottagers Association. But I can't reconcile the fact that there hasn't been studies supported. I didn't even see a letter submitted by the applicant that provided reasoning here. Is it an overdevelopment of the property? Perhaps. Could the applicant build up instead of out? Probably. Would that be better for in terms of reducing potential impacts? Likely. So I just think that there are too many concerns at this time. I'm not going to go over all the official plan policies that I just don't think it meets the intent right now. There are a number of studies required, and I will close my comments like that. And I think what you're hearing is that there's a lot of expertise in this area that are more than willing to help the applicant find something that will work for them and the neighborhood here. But those are my comments, and I'll close right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Cam. Anyone have any questions of Cam before he leaves? I'm seeing none. Any other questions or comments from staff or council or anyone from the public? Yes, we can move on to item number 6.2 of our agenda. which is zoning bylaw amendment, file number 2229. Sarah, may you please introduce the file?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public meeting for file number 22-29 to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Agent Gary Tipsherani. Again, I apologize if I butchered the last name. On behalf of the owners, Michelle Ray Tipsherani and Todd Rowan for the Shoreline Residential Private Access Lot in Municipality as 73 by Route 330. The subject land has a lot area of approximately 0.2 acres. However, Chris's report identifies a discrepancy of the lot area with MPAC, which suggests the lot area is 0.32 acres, which is suspected to be due to the exclusion of the original shore road allowance from the lot area on the application. The lot has an irregular shoreline frontage of approximately 40.6 meters. The lot is currently occupied by a single-story dwelling with a floor area of approximately 101.45 square meters and an attached deck with a floor area of approximately 50 square meters. Additionally, a shed exists in the water yard, which was not included on the applicant's site plan. The applicant's lot is characterized by an extensive staircase in the water yard, which also encroaches onto the abutting municipal unopened road allowance. The applicant has submitted an application for an encroachment agreement to recognize the staircase's location. The applicant is proposing to construct a replacement dwelling with a ground floor area of 140 square meters and introduces a partial second story to the dwelling, accessible basement, and a new attached deck. The applicant would require relief from the 30-meter water yard setback to accommodate the 18.44 meter setback from the dwelling and 15-meter setback from the deck. The applicant would also require a reduction to the exterior side yard for the deck from 6 meters to 0.38 meters from the deck and 2.61 meters from the dwelling. Additionally, the applicant's proposed septic system would be located within the required water yard, and there would be a reduction to the private right-of-way setback from 12 meters to 4.6 meters. There's a planning report on today's agenda from the municipality's external planning consultant, Chris Jones. Chris's report notes that the applicant's property is characterized by a very steep incline and that the proposal is considered infill development as defined in the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It should be noted that the applicant is proposing further development over the steep incline towards the high water mark, for which there is great concern that the stability of said slope would be impaired during and after construction, as the dwelling expansion proposes to expand over the crest of a very steep slope. It is also noted that the proposal is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement. Chris's report also notes that section 4.30.3 of the zoning bylaw establishes a number of regulations that authorize as-of-right expansions to non-compliant dwellings located within the required water yard. In this case, however, the proposal did not comply with the regulations because the proposed replacement dwelling was not able to maintain the furthest existing shoreline setback. And furthermore, the proposed deck would create a new encroachment into the water yard. The proposed deck would also create a new encroachment into the required exterior side yard setback. The municipality is in receipt of several comments pertaining to the proposal. Comments received from Curve Lake First Nations recommends an archaeological assessment where soils are to be disturbed. Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board have indicated that they have no identifiable concerns related to the proposal. Agent Gary Tipsherani is available on the line for any questions, as is the property owner. Further, if any members of the public did not register with the clerk indicating their intent to make an oral submission but would like to do so at this time, please use the raise a hand feature so that we are able to promote you in order for you to make an oral submission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have the agent on the line here. If you would like to unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, it's Gary Tipsherani. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. I'm the agent for my wife, Michelle Tipsherani. We have reviewed all of the issues and recommendations and the Curve Lake response. And we're thinking that we would like an opportunity to go through all of these issues with the township staff and be better prepared. And quite frankly, it's best to defer this to a future meeting so we can all be better prepared to discuss it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your opinion.
Thank you.
Any questions of council? I've seen no questions. Okay, we can now move out of our open meeting and back into our regular meeting, so I need a motion to do so. See Councillor Cadigan for a mover and Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation? All in favor? The motion is carried. We are now in our regular meeting. Now we move on to item 7.1 of our agenda, which, Sarah, you can explain your memo, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is a public meeting held for file number 22-26. At this time, staff are recommending that council receives the report from the external planning consultant, Chris Jones, and that council denies the application due to the application not maintaining or enhancing the environmental integrity of the waterfront due to concerns regarding crossing property not owned by the applicant and the concerns raised by the public body. However, if council is inclined to support the application, it is recommended that a number of conditions be applied, including 1, that the applicant prepares and submits a phase 1 and 2 archaeological assessment, as well as an MECP registration letter. 2, that the applicant submits a shoreline restoration plan with a focus on assessing the area of existing standing water for habitat function, protecting the surface water features during construction and landscaping, and naturalizing the shoreline post-construction. 3, that the applicant confirms the ownership of the intervening lands and the location of the proposed new driveway. And 4, that the applicant enter into a site plan agreement with the municipality, which will be registered on title at the applicant's expense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Your council has seen that. There's a couple of options there for us. Anyone prepared to make a motion? Seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. I would propose, and you can comment on it, I guess, after the motion's on the table. I would propose that we defer this pending a meeting and discussion between our planners and the applicants to determine if there is an alternative plan that would meet the concerns and requirements and move forward.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Okay, it's Councilor Franzen for a seconder. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just wanted to comment on it now that it's on the table. Our planner has some specific issues with this, which he has kind of identified, but nobody has really identified any alternatives to what's there. So I think before we define it outright, we need to allow for the parties to get together and see if they can't find a solution that doesn't.
I think that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, I'm seeing no hands. All in favor of the deferral? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Okay, Sarah, we can move on to your other items. 7.2.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is a public meeting held for file number 22-29. At this time, staff are recommending that council receives the report from the external planning consultant, Chris Jones, and the council denies the application. However, if council is inclined to support the application, it is recommended that a number of conditions be applied, including 1, that the applicant prepares and submits a phase 1 and 2 archaeological assessment, as well as an MECP registration letter. 2, that the applicant submits a shoreline restoration plan with a focus on assessing slope stability, protecting surface water features during construction and landscaping, and naturalizing the shoreline post-construction. 3, that the applicant enters into an encroachment agreement with the municipality for the use of the road allowance for access, parking, and the existing stairway. And 4, that the applicant enters into a site plan agreement with the municipality, which will be registered on title at the applicant's expense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the file that asked for a deferral themselves. I see Councilor Franzen.
I'd like to make a motion at the request of the applicant that we defer this property for clarification.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councilor Cadigan. Any other comments? All in favor of deferral? That motion has carried. Very much. Okay, we have presentations. We don't have any today, so we move on to delegations. And we have Susan Renard for development charge fees. Susan, are you there? Can you unmute your mic and turn your video on?
I am here. Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, share my webcam. I have asked to share the webcam, but I'm not sure if you can see me. If you can't see me, I'll just go ahead with the hearing. But oh, there I am. Oh, hello. Nice to see you all. Congratulations on your elections. You're all new. Okay, so I included a letter, or it wasn't included, and I'm hoping everybody had a chance to read it. Is that the case?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. So just following on that letter, so my request is that the development fee that we've paid be waived or reduced. Several reasons for the request. Basically, this is for a seasonal dwelling on Crystal Lake. We have been granted a permit to build a 384 square foot cottage. It's more along the lines, in footage anyway, of a tiny home. We are not asking for any minor variances. There's no issue with lot size. There's no special requests in terms of any accommodations for the building. In fact, our intent was to build it as minimally, with most minimal impacts as possible, without any special requests for setbacks, et cetera, and to impact the natural environment in the least possible way. So we are building this. We are a family cottagers. We own the lot next door, and my parents bought it in the 50s, which is in my letter, our little story. So we have a strong emotional connection to the place as well. We've been there 70 years. I know I don't look 70, but oh, I've been there almost 70 years. Anyway, so the lot next door came up. I call it the lot next door. It was severed, which is part of my issue, but the two lots next door came up for sale as a parcel 5-6 years ago, and we bought, groups of my family got together and bought them as tenants in common. We had to buy them as tenants in common, multiple family members, because the affordability it's cottage country is not affordable for the average person anymore. So anyway, the lot next door was, I said, subdivided. My sister built on one side in 2015 and did not have to pay development charges. We were quite surprised to get the bill for the development charges on our side, because it was once a full cottage lot and it had buildings throughout the lot. She did have on her side, well, her side, our side, it's all one family with various tenants in common, but the footprint was on the survey. But we did have, there was a shed and other of the footprint of the original 16 by 16 cottage was on her side, and our side had a shed and outhouse and various things. I should mention, and again, it's in the letter, that cottage had been abandoned for 30 years. Although we were close to it, because it was also built by my father and his friend. They both bought lots side by side in 1951. Anyway, so we were finally able to bring that lot back into the family, and we're very happy. So we were building this small cottage that we wanted to build this year, and we are building, when we were surprised by the development fee. So the other thing that we also got surprised by was we applied in 2021. We couldn't get the application completed until this year, because the first pass from Trent Lakes was that they requested that we have full power, hydro, sewage, septic, and plumbing, and water, which we had originally conceived this to be more along the lines of a tiny house. And like one of your earlier people, we had spoken with Brad Clark from Clark Environmental about leaching pits and various things that were to building code, solar systems that also were to building code. And we were quite surprised by Trent Lakes to say that we had to get the full septic and things like this. So it was kind of confusing for us. We also weren't able to meet with Trent Lakes. We did request a meeting, and I honestly think it was the pandemic. I think everybody who works there did a great job and supported us, but I I think communication was difficult in that time, so I don't blame any individuals. So we had a quite a learning curve on our journey in terms of encountering these things bit by bit. Anyway, so I guess, yeah, so I noticed in the new plan that Peterborough County has adopted, there is a section, it's 5.6.6, that does accommodate tiny houses. There isn't any detail on what these accommodations will be. And they also mention affordable housing. And I think one of my concerns, and it's outlined in the letter, is how do we keep families being able to afford cottages? How do we keep the ability to continue to have these places? Because the development fee that we've been asked to pay is 20% of our budget. I mean, we're doing the build ourselves, you know, as we would on any cottage project. It's a family affair. And it's if it's hurting us, it's making a cottaging a very exclusive activity. I do understand that municipalities are underfunded, and that's a bigger provincial issue, and I understand the need and why these things happen. The new plan does talk about affordability, and it does talk about adjusting development fees, and it does talk about tiny houses. So we're kind of betwixt and between, because this was adopted by council. We're kind of building that now, but there was no accommodation for it because our zoning is shoreline residential. We don't have all the full services that the county offers to other residents because we don't have a road. We can only go there 7 months of the year. Our building had to be building permit in the process, and even Peterborough Health couldn't come in for 5 months because you have to put everything on hold because you can't access it. So we have no access. It is a seasonal dwelling as well. Yeah, so I think that's most of my points. Yeah, and I think, yeah, so that's the main thing, is just that I think the zoning and the current Trent Lakes outline is really out of step with where we are culturally, and that is in two ways. Environmentally, because we're in a climate crisis, and we also have massive affordability issues for the average person. We know the divide between the rich and the poor is much different now than it was when my parents were able to pay $120 for our lot in 1951. So I think the new plan does take steps to address that, and we fell between the cracks. So I think there's several reasons why I'm asking for our fees to be reviewed. One is that we applied in 2021 and we paid the increases that applied to 2022, but because we can't access a lot, you know, everything gets shut down, including the visiting from the, you know, Peterborough Health and stuff like that. Two is because we are trying to build something that it looks like you're going towards in the future, and we're not there yet. And three, because the lot was a lot that we're very familiar with, and it did have buildings on it. And even if they didn't survive 70 years as well as our cottage has survived 70 years, I mean, it was a cottage lot already. So it was quite shocking to us that we would, you know, we're not developers, we're cottagers, and we built the smallest, lowest impact dwelling we possibly could, for all the reasons I stated above. And again, the fees are in excess of 20% of the entire budget, which I think that's a big issue for a lot of people going forward. And yeah, I think that's basically it. And please read my letter if you haven't read it too. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your delegation. Motion of any kind? Prepared to make a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I was wondering if it'd be okay now.
You certainly can.
Okay, thank you. First, I just wanted to clarify that the official plan has not been approved by the province yet, so it's not in effect. Once it is, we will be updating our own zoning bylaws to align with that. And to that extent, we will look at how best to support affordable housing going forward within our own jurisdiction. But the two questions were, number one, you mentioned your sister didn't pay development charges. I'm trying to understand that, why that was. That doesn't make sense to me. And the second was, I don't think in your letter you identified how much development charges you were actually charged. I know you said something like 20% of your budget, but I don't know how much the actual development charges were. So there's two questions.
Yeah, I don't have the receipt in front of me. The total charges were $18,049. The project budget is about $100,000. The Trent Lakes portion is just under 6,000, and Peterborough was about 9,000. And then there was the building permit itself, and then something else. And I'm sorry, I should have printed that out to have it handy.
And your sister not having to pay development charges, do you?
I think that was because there was a footprint of the former cottage on that lot. Well, it was one lot divided, and there was buildings on both, but that one was a 16 by 16 cottage, as ours was too, our original cottage. They were all small because there's only water access. You have to bring everything in by boat. So yeah, back in the day they were very small. But yeah, so that was on the records, I guess. So I don't know. It just didn't. It never happened. It didn't. It wasn't a development charge. So I guess it was the footprint. But sorry, yeah, I didn't. It was unclear to us as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll answer your question. Any other questions? I see Councillor Franzen.
I just have a comment. I'm very sympathetic to her plight here because development charges are the same on a 400 or 500 square foot cottage than it is on a 3,500 square foot cottage. So somehow that inherently doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a big point for us. And again, part of the reason why we want to build small is to build ecologically sound. You know, and up to this point in 7 years, we've adhered to all the bylaws and support all the council activities. So I would only be coming forward. This is an exception in our history, you know, because I think it's an exceptional circumstance that deserves consideration.
Thank you very much. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Just to make a motion, if I may,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor. I would make a motion to receive the report and request staff to come forward with a recommendation.
Okay, I need a seconder. I see Councillor Braybrook. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you very much for your delegation.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we can move on to 9.2 of our agenda, which is Pam Dickey, the Trent Lake Sullivan Seniors. Pam, are you there?
Okay, are we all right now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you for seeing me today. I have a little bit of an update on the letter that I sent you all. The actual number of seniors that will be requiring assistance will be 20 versus 25, as quoted in my letter. Since I sent the letter to you, I have had one financial donation, and I've ordered the food. I'm not sure how I'm going to pay for it yet, but the food arrives today. I have had various area volunteers stepping up to offer stuff to put in the bags. Last night, actually, I met a very lovely lady that makes Christmas cake that she sells for $20, and she's donating 20 of them to us. So this is a very worthwhile program. I've been involved in it for at least 7 years through community care. Last year I was heartbroken when I found out they weren't going to do it, but I stepped up and did it. And with we had a lot earlier time, and last year I was just figuring we had a $925 in donations come in last year, which enabled us to provide 2 full days of meals. They got poinsettias, Christmas cake, all kinds of candies, treats, hats. It was just think if you're by yourself, you have nothing under the tree. On Christmas morning, they open up their bag and there's all these little treats for them, and they have 2 full days of meals. So, and I know a lot of these seniors. I've dealt with them when I was when I volunteered with community care. So this year, when this opportunity came up that it was not going to happen, I approached the Trent Sullivan Lake seniors, and we all said it's just a natural progression for us to do this. And very wholeheartedly, I've got lots of volunteers helping to deliver, but it's more the financial obligation is what I'm looking for today.
Okay, thank you, Pam. We have a number there on the page, I think. Yes. Any comments from council? I see Councillor Franzen.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this, but just one very quick question. Has the council in Selwyn been approached?
No, they don't give us anything. We try, I'm serious, Peter. Last year we went to request funding for grant, to help with our website that is still we're in the process of working. And we were told quite bluntly that we don't take on any new businesses or committees or organizations. You just don't qualify.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Which
question.
is not fair.
Okay, I see Councillor Cadigan for a question.
Hi, Pam.
Hi, Joe.
How much money were you looking for?
As much as you're going to give me, 500 would be nice. The meals will cost me $410. But any extra will enable me to purchase items that are not going to come in through our wish list that we've submitted.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up. I think Selwyn should still be approached, and I would be willing to make a motion to support the $500 if we have the money in the budget.
I think that's a question for Donna. Do we have somewhere we could find $500?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Mansell. So council has exhausted the part of the budget that allows for this type of support. But as council overall in their budget is under, I believe it can be accommodated through that line in the budget. So it would show as an overage in the council support line, but overall still under for council.
Okay. So we can find it, we will just have to be creative. Okay, motion to support for $500. I see a seconder of Councillor Cadigan. Any other comments? All in favor? The motion to support the $500 carries.
Thank you. And I'd also like to extend an invitation. The first Wednesday of every month, starting in January, we have a potluck at the Buckburn Community Center with our seniors, and we never know who's going to show up. It's a true potluck. Last month we had all dessert, so it was fun. But I would love to have you all come and visit with our seniors. We usually have somebody come in and speak to us. The fire department came in last month. So get to know us. We have 35 members now. We're growing.
Thank you very much for the invite. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
What time is that, Pat?
Noon. It's
Noon.
lunch, Peter.
I know, but lunch could be at 1 o'clock.
No, 12 o'clock, and then usually if we have a guest speaker, it'll be 1 o'clock.
Okay, very good.
Try to keep your comments going through the chair, please.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10. We don't have a 10.1, 10.2, or 10.3, but item number 10.4 is building and planning. Sarah, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Council held a public meeting for file number 22-23, Halbert, on August 9th, 2022, for the lot municipally known as 68 Subcott Drive. The purpose of the application was to permit the establishment of a home industry within a proposed detached garage. Council, as a result, passed Resolution R 2022-436, which gave direction for staff to prepare a bylaw and site plan agreement before council in a manner requested by the applicant. That the information on the installation of the building be provided, and that staff bring the site plan agreement to council. All items are attached to the external planning consultant's report. The applicant has agreed to the conditions of the attached agreement. Please note that Schedule A-1 on the draft bylaw does not illustrate the applicant's property. A new schedule will be provided on the final copy. If council is in general agreement with the analysis of the report provided by the external planning consultant, it is recommended that direction be given to 1, forward the draft site plan agreement to the applicant for review and execution, and 2, include the draft zoning bylaw amendment in a future council agenda to render a decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the recommendations. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamb's Head. Yes, I would propose the motion that we forward this draft site agreement to the applicant for review and execution and include, which already is, the draft zoning bylaw amendment and future council decision.
Do we have a seconder on that? Looking for a seconder on that one. I see Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. Any other conversation? None. All in favor? That motion is carried. Okay. We can move on to item 10.42, which is Adele Arbor.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lamb's Head, the property owner of Unit 38 in Oak Orchard Planet Condominium has applied to remove the holding provision on the subject lands. The property owner is intending to construct an addition onto the existing dwelling and has satisfied all conditions related to the removal of the hold, which includes the submission of an archaeological assessment along with the ministry letter identifying that the assessment has been entered into the public register of archaeological reports. The property owner has entered into a site plan agreement with the municipality and also provided documentation to confirm engagement with Curve Lake First Nation in the preparation and finalization of the archaeological assessment. The notice of intention to pass an amending bylaw to remove the holding symbol was given in accordance with Section 36 of the Planning Act. Planning staff are supportive of the removal of the holding provision on Unit 38 and recommend that Council receive this report and support the approval of the bylaw to remove the holding symbol for Unit 38, which is on today's Council agenda for consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. See Councillor Cadigan, motion to approve is recommended, I'm assuming. And I have Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any conversation? All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, Adele. Okay, we can move on to 10.6 administration. So we'll go 10.61, which is Donna Taggart, the CAO Treasurer.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Lamb's Head. Before you is the Q3 reporting for your information. You will see that we're still trending with increased workloads and volume. And we've also provided you with an update on the work plans for all departments. So most departments are here today if you have any questions, but it's for your information.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone on council have any questions on any items on that work plan? That lengthy and detailed work plan. I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamb's Head. I just wanted to make a comment. I appreciate the work that staff has done in, first of all, moving to consolidated quarterly reports so you can see all of the metrics in one place and continuing to try and improvements to it. So it's nice to have all of the operational metrics in one place. And yes, your workload is continuing to increase, and I think we'll see some reference to that when we get to our budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Councillor Franzen.
Motion to receive.
Motion to receive for information. Seconder. And I have Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. All in favor? The motion is carried. And thank you very much to all the staff that put so much effort into that. Okay. We can move on to item 10.71, which is Anne Root.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamb's Head. As directed by Council, staff undertook a review of Bylaw B 2018-022, a bylaw governing the proceedings of the Committee of Adjustment/Property Standards Committee. The focus of which was both the expansion of the appeal role of the committee and alignment of content with the municipality's procedure bylaw and committee and board policy to the extent possible. A summary of proposed changes is included in the report. There are a few things that I would like to highlight. Firstly, the expansion of the appeal role of the committee to include delegated authority to hear appeals to orders issued under both the property standards bylaw and the animal control bylaw. Subsequently, a change to the committee name to reflect this to the Committee of Adjustment / Appeals Committee. In addition, there was content added regarding the monthly honorarium for public appointees who are non-council members to offset the cost of mileage for completing site visits. This honorarium was previously established by council in the amount of $75 a month for a total of $900 per year, and staff are recommending this amount to be increased to $100 a month for a total of $1,200 per year. Staff are recommending that council receive the report, support the delegation of responsibilities for hearing appeals under both the property standards bylaw and the animal control bylaw, and support the increase in the monthly honorarium for public appointees. There are 2 related bylaws included on today's agenda that will be dealt with after closed session. One to constitute and appoint a Committee of Adjustment / Appeals Committee, and a second to establish procedures for that committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Franzen?
Yeah, I just have one comment. This $75 fee was set in 2015, and I don't believe $100 is enough. I think we want to.
Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor Lamstead. Wasn't clear to me, Anne, in the policy, whether the 2 councillors, if it continues to be 2, who sit on the committee, whether their expenses would be included in that for their work on committee adjustments, or whether that comes out of their regular councillor expenses. We had, in my mind, we had confusion over that in the past years. I would like to see that every member of the Committee of Adjustments, including the councillors who sit on that, get the monthly amount, period, and that then their council-related expenses are separate. And as far as the amount, I really prefer to the sitting councillors, Lamstead and Trent, to determine whether that amount is
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
Through you, Mayor. I think there are times that we put well in excess of 200 kilometers on our vehicle to do the inspection. And very often it takes more than 1 day to do the inspection. So if you just look at the increase in gas, that would be well in excess of the $100. If you compare what we paid for gas in 2015 to what we're paying for it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. Then I would propose a motion to send this back to staff to have discussions with the current sitting councillors on the committee and make any appropriate updates and bring this back to council at a later date. Later date being next month if possible.
Mayor Lamstead, if I may.
Yes.
So this motion actually, the bylaws that accompany this report, they do constitute and appoint the Committee of Adjustment as well as establish the procedures, which will support our orientation of the new committee. So I respectfully request that the council consider the motion and refer the matter of the amount of remuneration back to staff for further review and proceed with the remainder. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that reasonable?
That's fine with me. The only thing I want to ensure is that when we talk about monthly fees, you also consider the inclusion of sitting councillors. But approve the rest of the motion as it stands.
Thank you. Through you, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
There was some discussion regarding inclusion of the council members in the honorarium. Councillor Armstrong, for clarification, the policy is currently written just for the honorarium for public appointees, and council appointed members would continue to claim mileage expenses with their monthly expense claim forms. I did consult with the finance department in regard to this, and it was recommended that councillor expenses remain separate and distinct from the monthly honorarium.
I would still, if I may, I'd like to include that and the part that is sent back to staff for discussion.
Okay. We have a seconder for that. We have a seconder, Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? Okay, that motion is carried that we send the honorarium back to staff for some more consideration. But the rest of that recommendations carried. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to 10.7, which is Jesse Clark.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Landshead. The municipality's procedure bylaw says that regular meetings will be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month. And during the months of July and August, there will only be one regular meeting. And that the clerk prepare a report in the fourth quarter of each year, bringing forward the calendar for the next year. So regular meetings were scheduled in accordance with those rules with the following exceptions. In January, there's only one regular meeting that was scheduled for the third Tuesday to avoid posting an agenda during the holiday season. However, there is a special council meeting this month for the community grant requests. And the other exception was April. Only one regular meeting was scheduled for the first Tuesday to avoid a scheduling conflict with the OGRA conference or having council on back-to-back weeks. So as presented, there would only be one regular meeting in January or April. However, council could opt to amend the calendar to include two in April, with the understanding that there would still be a quorum of council present if two members of council went to OGRA, or that those members that went to OGRA could participate electronically.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone prepared to make a motion or have some discussion? Yep, I see Councillor Franzen.
Just a comment, I find that if we're only having two meetings in the summer in July and August, I prefer to see a second meeting possibly in August. It tends to be a busy time for council, and then we start functioning. We have very long meetings because we can't get through the whole agenda.
The Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
And I would support that. You know, our population more than doubled in the summer. And so there's just more going on. It may be a burden on staff, so that's a consideration, but I would like to see it considered as well.
Again, we have the AMO conference in the third week of August. Why we don't have that meeting. But July, we certainly, I think we need conferences in July. Yeah, in August, change that to July, and that should be in July. That's something that people would consider and staff can consider. Well, anyone prepared to make that as a motion? I think I see Councillor Franzen.
Yeah, I'd like to make that a motion that we send it back to staff to review.
Okay. Seconder for that, I have Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Maybe a motion to accept or approve the calendar as presented, with the exception of the summer meetings.
Okay. Acceptable. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. And we're back to 10.73, which is Jesse Clark.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Landshead, staff are seeking direction on which council members will be attending the Roma, OGRA, and AMO conferences. Some details are included in the report. And staff are also seeking direction on which, if any, ministries to request delegations and the topic for each for the first conference, which is Roma, and they're accepting delegation requests.
Thank you very much. Anyone want to go to which one in particular? I already know that I'm attending the AMO through the county, so anything else? Yes, Councillor Franzen.
Just a question for you to Jesse is Eastern Ontario, is that on that list? That would be the like one I would like to attend this year.
Through you, Mayor Landshead, Councillor Franzen, it wasn't included in the list. I believe it's in September. And absolutely, we could send council member for that conference as well.
That you requested to be sent to the conference. I think that
Yeah.
sounded like that to me.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to join Councilor Franzen at that conference? It's nice to have some people with you when you're making a delegation. Okay, okay. Councilor Braver? Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm sure staff will look into that just to make sure of the dates and times. Have some delegations that we want to present. And would anyone from council like to go to Roma on the 22nd to the 24th? Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
I would like to go. Thank you. I would like to go to that. I have not submitted a request to the county. So if you are able to have them, that would probably be even better. And I assume that would count as my one. I'm a little confused about that.
Through you, Mayor Lim, Deputy Mayor Armstrong, sorry. I believe that the county provides for each of the mayor and deputy mayor to go to one conference, and we provide one conference as well. So we'll be able to attend to
One through the county and one through the.
Thank you.
Well, would you like to attend that through Trent Lakes or County Theater? Deputy Mayor? Okay.
Sorry, I feel like there's still some technology issues with the sound, so if we could just remind everyone to speak to the microphone, people.
Okay, so we have Deputy Mayor Armstrong wanting to attend Roma.
Right.
And would anyone else like to attend with Deputy? July 22nd to July 24th. I'm sorry, wow. 6 months back. No hand. I probably would do that, I think, myself. Join you, and then there'll be two of us that we can support each other at delegations. And we have the OGRA conference. Anyone prepared to go to the OGRA conference or considering it? I'm seeing no hand. Anyone want to go to AMO conference? Councilor Braver, I think we only are allowed one conference each. So the only one left, I think, would be Councilor Academy.
No. On the 23rd.
Okay, if you will do that, that's good. And I will be there through the county, so we don't really need a second though. That works well, I think. That covers everybody, and if you, yes, go ahead, Councilor Grant.
I just have one very quick question. Our county representatives, if they are going through the county, can they still make the presentation on behalf of the municipality?
That's a very good question that I'm sure we'll have an answer for after a couple of days. I think I can, as long as it doesn't interfere with any delegations that are presenting through the county. So I'll let you know.
Should I make that a motion that that staff investigates whether members of the county council and the municipality can make that? I know it's obviously.
If you choose it to make it a motion, you can, but I'm sure I can solve it with one phone call.
Okay, I withdraw.
So I think we have our list of people that are going to. Yes, yes, go ahead.
This also is Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Mayor Lance are going to Roma if there's any delegations that you would like to.
Good question. I wasn't ready for that. Anyone have any ideas for topics for Roma? How long do we have before we have to have them speak? Okay.
Lamb's Head, I am not sure. However, you do not have to provide any delegations. The deadline to request delegation meetings is November 28th.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if Bill 23 is really outstanding or alive at that time, or whether we put to bed before that. If we're within a consultation period,
We're
I
close.
suggest that would be with the delegation. If the delegation period, because the consultation period is closed, then.
Councillor Franzen?
I just wonder if our oath of office, if we feel that it should include a land recognition of native land recognition, if it should mirror the oath that new citizens to Canada pay. If we would have a delegation to the Solicitor General of Ontario, I imagine that would be the.
That's a reasonable idea, actually, I think. Support that. Do you have support? I think that's something to investigate, but in their delegation, we have the land recognition. Okay. So let's figure out who's going where. Do we have that already? And we can have a motion to support. Go ahead.
Mayor Lamb said I have that council would receive the report and approve sending Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Mayor Lamb said to the Roma conference, and approve sending Councillor Cadigan to the AMO conference, and sending Councillor Blaybrook and Councillor Franzen to the OEMC conference. And I believe we are requesting staff to request delegations to the appropriate ministry for the oath of office, and I'm unclear if they're requesting a delegation regarding Bill 23 or not.
That was through Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Could I make an amendment to that? If the consultation period is still open at the time of the conference, that we would present the delegation. And second.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Franzen.
I wonder if that would still be relevant to ask about the certification of firefighters, if there's no money available, or if they have. It's a pretty onerous restriction, and I wonder if they're going to assist the municipalities.
I think from my point of view on that, I think we need to be the squeaky wheel there. I think we need to keep reiterating that. That would be the delegation for, I would think AMO or Roma. I'm not sure which would be the more appropriate, or both. Okay, we're going to include that in your. Okay. So now we might. We could have it figured out who's going where, and we could need a motion for that and a motion for the delegations as well, I believe. But I think we're close. And definitely just let us know kind of what we discussed there. So
Yes, the motion would be to receive the report and further to approve sending Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Mayor Lampset to the Roma conference. Approve sending Councillor Cadigan to the AMO conference, and sending Councillor Braybrook and Councillor Franzen to the OEMC conference, and that council would direct staff to request delegations to the appropriate ministries regarding Bill 23. The consultation period is still open at the time of the conference, and the appropriate ministry regarding the oath of office and the certification of firefighters for the Roma conference.
okay, that's good. Anyone prepared to put that in a motion? Let's see, Councillor Franzen. Okay, seconder. The Councillor Cadigan. All in favor of that motion? That motion will carry. Thank you very much. And we are coming back to the city clerk. Services.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamphead. The next report deals with council committee and board appointments. So first is the Police Services Board. The Police Services Act states that the Police Services Board shall consist of the head of council, or if the head chooses not to be a member of the board, another member of council appointed by resolution. So the mayor could choose to represent council on the Police Services Board, or could opt out and council could choose another council representative. But it is anticipated that council will revisit the appointments to the Joint Police Services Board as they are currently undergoing restructure. For the Library Board, staff are looking for direction on the single member of council to be a representative. For the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee, there are 2 council representatives that sit on this committee that staff are looking for direction for. And then regarding the 2 advisory committees, council has approved that those 2 advisory committees, being the Economic Development and Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee, remain in place, and that the public appointments continue until January 31st, 2023. So in order to maintain consistency with the previous committee appointments, staff are recommending council confirm that Mayor Lamphead and Councillor Franzen were made appointed to the Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee until January 31st. And staff are also recommending that council confirm Deputy Mayor Armstrong remain appointed to Economic Development Committee again until January 31st, and that the terms of reference be amended to reflect a council or a committee composition with only 1 council representative. And again, this the advisory committee appointments would just be for the remainder of the term until January 31st.
Okay. Councillor Franz, yes.
Through you, Mayor, and I believe I do understand the answer to this question. Economic development, that is only 1 member of council till January 1st. And when we reconstitute the committee, there would be 2 members of council.
Through you, Mayor Lamphead, to Councillor Franzen. That is correct that the 1 council representative would be until the end of the term, which would be until January 31st, 2023. When staff bring forward a report with recommendations on the new committee structure, there will be recommendations about the composition, and that would include equal member representation on both committees.
Okay. I just have one question. We do have some expertise on council about police services. I'm wondering if that member of council would consider sitting on police services. Rather than myself. Go ahead, Councilor Brady.
For you there,
I think that's a good idea, and I think that's using our expertise to our advantage, and I apologize for that, Councilor Braybrook, but I think that's an important thing. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Captain Armstrong.
I would like to volunteer for the member group.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think all members of council would agree to that. And Councillor Franklin.
I would like to volunteer for KRCA and ORCA.
Like I said, those will be coming forward through different correspondence.
Okay.
The representatives of conservation.
Okay.
I think we have Committee of Adjustment.
Correct. 2
Yeah.
representatives.
We have 2 representatives of the Committee of Adjustment. I think Councillor Franklin, you expressed some interest in that at one time. Sure, go ahead.
I believe that at least because that appointment goes year to year, I think at least for the beginning, there should be continuity, and I would hope that the mayor would be able to sit on that committee as well.
I certainly would volunteer for that, yes. What else do we have?
The recommendation then would be that council appoint Councillor Franzen and Mayor Lamphead to the Committee of Adjustment Police Committee, Councillor Braybrook to the Police Services Board, Deputy Mayor Armstrong to the Library Board, The remainder of the recommendation deals with the advisory committee, council representatives, which would be Mayor Langshead as Council Franzen to Conservation and Culture, and Deputy Mayor Armstrong to Economic Development, and the approval that only one council representative be on Economic Development Committee. So if council has no further discussion on the remainder of the recommendations.
Any further discussion? Anyone prepared to make that a motion? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a movement
Motion as stated.
and Councillor Cadigan for a second. All in favor? That motion was carried. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can move on to item 10.75, which again is Jesse Clark.
Thank you through you, Mayor Langshead. The Municipal Act provides that a lower tier council can appoint one of its members as an alternate to the upper tier council to act in place of a person when they are unable to attend a meeting of the upper tier, being the County of Peterborough. The appointment of an alternate council member is not mandatory. Until the last term, the councillor at large was the position that was appointed as the alternate member. Staff recommend continuing with this appointment, and a bylaw is on today's agenda to reflect that recommendation.
Is there a councillor at large? Of Heather?
I would accept that position. Make that consideration.
Thank you very much. Yes, hold on that. Thank you. We can move on to,
Sorry, through you, Mayor Langshead. The recommendation would be to receive the report and support the appointment of councillor at large as the alternate member for Peterborough.
so we do need a motion for that. I'm prepared to make that a motion. You see Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Stated.
Okay. And I need a seconder. Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now we can move on to 10.7.6, which again, Jesse Clark.
Thank you through you, Mayor Langshead, one final time, I think. An RFP was issued for Integrity Commissioner Services and awarded to Tony Fleming of Cunningham Swan, McCarty, Middle and Bottom LLP. And part of this RFP was the review and update of the municipality's code of conduct. So staff provided Mr. Fleming with a copy of the code of conduct for his review and worked with him to prepare the attached draft code of conduct for council's approval. Changes made to the code of conduct were fairly minor, and the changes in reasoning have been provided in the report. And staff also heard from Mr. Fleming about the proposed changes as well. At this point in the agenda, staff are just looking for council to support the new code of conduct. However, there is a bylaw on the agenda today to approve it formally, and upon approval, each member will be required to sign to attest that they've read and understood.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone prepared to like make that a motion? Or discuss it? I've seen Councillor Franzen.
Motion is supported.
Okay. And Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a second. All in favor? Motion is carried. Recommended. Okay, now we can move on to item 11 on our agenda, which is correspondence for information. If anyone would like to speak about one of those items, we can take it out of the list, or we can receive them all at the same time. I see Councillor Franzen.
Yes, I would like to take Honorable Steve Clark's Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on the More Homes Built Faster.
Okay, and I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong also.
Yes, I would like to come up.
Okay. So we can receive one, if 11.2, if you would like. Motion to see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Motion to receive, excuse me, 11.2.
See Councillor Franzen. All in favor of receiving that item? That motion has carried. Okay, now we can talk about 11.1. Go ahead, Councillor Franzen.
Yeah, my feeling is that a lot of people in Ontario are going to be losing the right to appeal certain developments, including quarries. And I understand staff is working on a response or an update for council on the impact of this legislation. And we may have a day session to discuss the impacts of this bill. So that's why I thought.
Okay. Anyone else care to discuss that? Go ahead, Councilor Brady.
Just a comment through you, Mayor. I've heard from many constituents that are concerned about several parts of the bill passed. Bill, specifically the ones around the aggregate issue as far as looking to the moratorium. I'm concerned that that just open floodgates to more applications. That's a concern.
Okay, thank you very much. We want to receive it for information now after we've had our conversation. Councilor Franzen,
Motion to receive for information.
do I have a seconder? Councilor Braybrooke, all in favor? That motion to receive is carried. And now 11.3, Councilor or Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Thank you. Watson and Associate has prepared a number of letters that pull out specific terms and conditions that are being proposed under Bill 23 and made some pretty strong arguments against them. We just talked about conservation, et cetera. So I would like to pull that out and actually prepare a letter of support for their objections to certain aspects of that bill and forward that to the ministry, to our MPP, to AMO, and perhaps to all of the other lower tier municipalities.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councilor Franzen, any more conversation about that motion? All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Correspondence for action. Upper Trent Lake Trent Water Management Partnership. They're looking for a representative on council. Anyone want to speak to that or talk about it? I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I have been the representative on that group. It has really been more an information sharing group at this stage. We have not, if you have no actions, they've been preparing, they are considering becoming an action group more like the Municipal Lakes has. I'd be prepared to continue. I'd also defer if there was somebody else who had it, because it's representation from the lower municipalities in Halliburton, North Florida, and Trent Lakes, from County Peterborough. And it's all about the reservoir and flow-through lakes that are connected to the Trent. Their focus has been on water quantity, flooding, et cetera, as opposed to water quality, which we know industry associations
Academy?
For you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Armstrong, I would be interested in attending those meetings, either with you or by myself.
I think we only have one member on that, so I think it would be one or the other. If Deputy Mayor Armstrong would.
Yeah, I'm happy to defer. Joe, I think you'd be a real asset to that, based on what you know and where you are, and I think you know that's going to be.
Okay. Make that a motion, I believe. We need to make that a motion. Who's prepared to make that a motion? I see Councilor Cadman.
Motion that I represent Trent Lakes on the Upper Trent Water Management Partnership.
Do we have a seconder? Councilor Braybrooke, all in favor? That motion is carried. Councilor Cadman. We have item 12.2, the Buckland Community Center is requesting a member of council representative. I see Councilor Franklin.
Yep. I've read the letter and I agree with the letter, and I would like to nominate John Braybrooke for the BCC for the 4 years.
And I think I would second that, if I'm allowed to. Any discussion? Oh, okay, I can
That's
see-
John Reed.
Councilor Brayberg, are you willing to take that nomination?
I am willing, however, reading both content of the letter and realizing that Councilor Large Franson has developed and established a good relationship with the BCC and is up to speed, so to speak, as to different strategic plans and goals moving forward. I would be willing to for that position and allow Councilor Large Franson to continue with that, just to maintain continuity and just if there's any anybody if there's any in the future.
Okay, Councilor Franzen?
It's been such an honor to represent Buckham Community Center. It's been one of the highlights in my whole career. I'm getting emotional.
It's okay.
I certainly will.
That's honorable of you, and I can thank you very much. Make that a motion. Someone make that a motion. Councilor Marge. Yes, go ahead.
Perhaps Councillor Francis would
I'll
withdraw his previous.
withdraw my motion.
Okay, so we need a motion to appoint Councilor Brayberg.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Councilor Large Franson to BCC.
We have a seconder for that motion. The Deputy Mayor Armstrong, any conversation? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Motion has carried. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can move on to item 13, which is the bylaws on the agenda. And I think, yes, you have a little memorandum to discuss.
I do. Thank you, Mayor Lampstead. There is one bylaw on today's agenda that didn't have a corresponding staff report or public meeting, and that's in 2022-111, and it's to authorize the execution of the shoreline road allowance of the needs procedures.
Okay, thank you very much. We can move on to item 13.2 of the Council Code of Conduct. I'm sure we've all had a chance to read that. Anyone prepared to make a motion? I see Councilor Franzen.
Motion and support.
Support, and Deputy Mayor Armstrong is a seconder. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. And now we go on to 13.3, which is the removal of the fold on Oak Orchard Unit 38. Deputy Mayor Armstrong
Motion to approve.
and Councilor Cadigan, all in favor? That motion is carried. We have a motion to appoint, or 13.4, we appoint a county council alternative. You want to make the motion? The Deputy Mayor Armstrong, seconder. The Councilor Cadigan for a seconder, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, Councilor. And now we have 13.5, which is the Shoreline Road Allowance Agreement, Series 35. Anyone prepared to make a motion? Anyone for me? Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Motion is. The motion that you're making is?
Oh, I'm sorry, to approve the DD 2022-111 for the shoreline road.
Do I have a seconder? Councilor Cadigan, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Move on to item 14. Is there anyone have any business arising out of a previous meeting? Councilor Franzen?
I have just one question is, do we need to make an appointment to the Buckhorn Tourist Association? I know a while ago, and they asked for the representative to attend the function on the 5th of December.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Thank you for your Mayor Lansford. Staff will reach out to the conservation authorities, the BDTA, the hall boards, and I think there are a couple other external committees that council representatives have been appointed to, and we'll bring them forward to the agenda.
Okay. Item 15, then we can move on to is anyone have a notice of motion? Information items is our next item on the agenda. Any liaison reports or external boards and committees? Since we're in day 2 of being elected as council members, I think it would be unusual to have that many. Thank you very much. Now we would need a motion to move into closed session under the Ontario Municipal Act, Section 239, Section 2, personal matters for identified individuals, including municipal board or local board or employees, and that is for committee board appointment. And advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, Dewdney Mountain zoning compliance, and Granite Ridge. Can I have a motion? I see Councillor Cadigan.
I will so move.
Move to go into close. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Braybrook, all in favor? We are, that's motion is carried. We are going into close. Okay, may I get a motion to rise from closed session? I see Councillor Franzen and Councillor Cadigan, all in favor? We have risen from closed. Now, we'll move forward to number 18, which is the adoption of the minutes of our last closed session meeting. I need a motion to adopt the minutes. Councillor Braybrook and Deputy Mayor Armstrong, all in favor? The motion is carried. The minutes are adopted. Okay, now we're going to move on to 8.1, which is the appointments of the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee and Police Services Board and the Library.
Through you, Mayor Lansford. The recommendation is that council appoint the following persons to the committees and boards. Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee, Sharon Brickman, Adria Eastman, Ed Leardam. To the Police Services Board, Mosey Lowe. To the Library Board, Lance Coulthard, Adria Eastman, Deborah Kaminsky, Peter Raymond, Margaret Roberts, and Kent Steen.
Thank you very much. Can we get a motion to that? That would be Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Councillor Cadigan. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. And now we want to move on to 18.3, constitute and appoint the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Lansford. The bylaw will be read a first and second time, and then it is recommended that council amend section 7 to insert the names of Sharon Brickman, Adria Eastman, and Ed Leardam as the public appointees, and that section 8 be amended to appoint Councillor Franzen and Mayor Lambshead as the council representatives for the year 2023, and that it be read a third time and passed this 22nd day of November.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone prepared to make that motion? Seeing Councillor Franzen for a mover and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to 18.4, which is govern the proceedings of meetings of the Committee of Adjustment and Appeals Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Lansford. Due to the discussion at an item under the staff reports, it would be appropriate at this time to defer the passing of this bylaw until staff has had an opportunity to review the honorarium and report back.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
Motion to defer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Braybrook, all in favor? Motion is carried to defer. Okay, we move on to 19, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. Prepared to make a motion. Councillor Franzen for a mover. And I don't see any more hands. We're not going to confirm. Oh, I see Councillor Gadigan for a seconder. All in favor? Motion is carried. We can move on to our next deputy mayor's favorite part of this meeting and make a motion to adjourn. I think you can carry the tradition, Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Councillor Cadigan, all in favor. That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.